Join the Coven. Today's video is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering my listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/GothicRose and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title for free and start listening. It's that easy. Just go to audibletrial.com/GothicRose to get started today. I'm a guard stationed at a secret government prison. A story written by Mr. Outlaw. Part 9. Damn! It was the only word that I can muster out upon encountering the incomprehensible pressure that had just filled the space around me. The kid wasn't himself anymore. I was starting to understand. It wasn't his own power that he had a hard time trying to control. It was something residing inside of him. As his metamorphosis continued, he'd become only about a head shorter than Kente. His form was also fluid while remaining solid at the same time. Like a floating, gaseous form that vaguely resembled a human. Afterwards, his original dark gray color quickly began morphing into a blinding, golden light. After about 5 seconds, his dynamic body finally settled on a concrete form. There was only one word I could really use to describe it. A warrior. Tall and lean, with thick, flowing hair that extended down to his shoulders, he held a lance seemingly composed of sheer light, along with a complementary shield. He had armor on, albeit minimally, just chest, shoulder plating, along with a pair of knee-length shorts. The potential origin of such an entity was lost on me. The mere presence of it invoked a sense of awe, danger, and beauty all at once. Surprisingly, Kente began smiling at the sight of Ajay's transformed state, a bloody ear-to-ear grin, devoid of any humanity at all. "Looks like the evil's finally come out," he bellowed before bolting at him. Ajay's warrior form managed to counter all of Kente's initial attacks before delivering a brutal sequence of his own. He slashed Kente across the stomach, creating a deep gash, impaling him through the torso and smashing him through a metal side beam. Still, I couldn't get too excited. The whole situation seemed oddly familiar. Kente encounters an enemy initially more formidable than himself and gets beat down at first, only to end up massacring them in the end, regenerating nearly instantly, while also getting bigger and stronger in the process. We were going up against rapid evolution, which was one of the worst powers you could possibly hope for in an opponent. In any case, it seemed as if Ajay was intent on finishing the job early, which was really the only option here. He took his lance and swung it with inhuman speed, slashing Kente more times than I could possibly count. It was a gruesome sight as blood gushed out from every inch of his body, staining the metal beneath him red. Ajay went for another stab, but this time Kente managed to deflect the blow and close the distance between them. "Got you!" he screamed. He was wrong. Ajay took his palm and rammed it into Kente's neck, causing him to spit out what looked like a gallon more of blood. Ajay then took the butt end of his lance and drilled it into the side of Kente's cheek, puncturing it all the way through. "Jeez," I muttered at the gruesome sight. Of course, Sandhu didn't seem too surprised. He had seen this before. But at the end of the day, the only thing that mattered was getting rid of Kente right then and there. Ajay grabbed his lance and pulled it down, creating a massive gash down Kente's cheek, down to his jaw, ripping through his gums and breaking teeth in the process. But even that wasn't enough. Kente howled like a maniac and managed to grab Ajay's neck, ripping a good chunk of his flesh out. Ajay reeled, but was still able to thrust the lance straight through Kente's torso once again. Still not enough. Kente swiped at Ajay's head, twisting it around completely. At that moment, I was sure that he was dead. But Sandhu didn't seem all too worried yet. Another blinding flash of light burst from Ajay's body before he seemingly morphed again, taking on a new form entirely. This time, he resembled an archer atop an armored horse, still with the golden aura surrounding him. I remembered something. Each void had an official description assigned to it for database purposes. Most of them were a few paragraphs long, save for Ajay's. His was short and vague, containing only one short phrase: the warrior's spirit. I never knew what to make of it before, but I was starting to understand now. Ajay directed a flurry of arrows at Kente, sticking him with about 6 of them. However, that form was also quickly obliterated as Kente dragged him down from the horse and stomped on his head like a watermelon. Another flash of light. This time, I closed my eyes. Upon the death of one form, he began cycling through others, manifesting into various warriors from throughout history. A hulking, powerful Viking, a skilled, relentless Zulu soldier, a fast, unyielding samurai, etc. With each transformation, he dealt Kente more and more damage. But that was the problem. Kente just kept getting stronger as a result, and Ajay couldn't seem to finish the job. After 5 cycles, Kente was bordering on the size of a house, with his veins resembling steel pipes. He picked up another of Ajay's warrior forms by the neck and began taunting him. "I know evil. I've seen it, and I'll never lose to it." Using a single arm, he lifted him up and slammed him into the ground. Years of destruction and rebirth, forced evolution, surviving the abyss that lies before death, over and over and over and over again, until enlightenment is forced onto you. To the uninitiated ear, that might have sounded like the ramblings of a madman. But to me, it yielded a daunting realization. Sandhu recognized it as well. I could see the horror in his eyes. Throughout history, humans have done too many cruel things to each other to possibly count. And for what reason? Well, that list is unending. But even amongst the dark sea of bloodshed, warfare, and torture, there's one brutal practice that stands out from the rest. The true origins of it are a mystery, both in date and location. Some believed It was developed by the Aztecs, some by the Spartans, Mongols, Ming Dynasty, Roman legionaries, Nazi Germany. Some even claimed that some modern militaries still made use of this practice. The only thing that we know for sure was that it existed, and it sounded horrific. I'm sure it goes by a lot of names, but the one given to it by the government is the evolution ritual. In my opinion, that name doesn't do it sheer brutality justice. I'll try to paint a picture. Imagine an empty, medium-sized concrete room, devoid of any windows, illuminated only by a few dim light bulbs above. Fill that room with about 25 to 50 men, specifically selected due to their exceptional combat prowess. Fighters, soldiers, mercenaries, etc. Now seal off all the exits and inform the subjects that only the last man standing will be afforded the right to leave. Leave them to fight to the death. Conduct hundreds or however many of these death matches at once. Next, divide the winners into smaller groups and repeat the process until only the last men among hundreds or possibly thousands are left. Next, seal those men off into a dark, confined space for 50 days. No food, water, or any kind of stimulus. The ones that manage to survive all of this are the successes. The conjecture went as follows. If an individual's mind and body managed to endure such a torturous gauntlet, they would have eclipsed some kind of threshold, undergone some type of rapid evolution. These were the men with exceptional latent potential, the ones who possessed something more than conventional strength and willpower. Under such drastic circumstances, their minds will have tapped into a reserve of power beyond human physical and mental limitations. I'm gleaming over some details, of course, but that's the gist of it. Sounded like bull science to me, but hey, what the heck do I really know at this point? Sandhu and I learned about the existence of this ritual following an eternal breach of information that was even classified for us. We also learned that sometime after World War II, a unit of soldiers and intelligence officers came across the aftermath of one of these rituals in a large, remote, and decrepit building somewhere in the Thar Desert after the White House received some kind of obscure message containing a pair of coordinates. Inside, there were upwards of 1,100 human skeletons, all scattered throughout various rooms in the structure. The strangest part? There was a set of small chambers at the center of the building, where 6 emaciated, horribly scarred men were shackled to the walls. However, while certainly dead, they hadn't even begun decomposing yet. Well, except for one, that is. One man was still alive. This mysterious figure was dubbed the Unkillable Man. To this day, we have no idea what kind of organization conducted the ritual, or who sent the coordinates, and the biggest question? Why? I'm getting off topic here, though. We also couldn't figure out who this mysterious, unkillable man might be. And although it was by no means definitive, we now had a clue. Before Ajay could get another word out, Kente killed him again. By this point, I'd regained some movement in my limbs, which allowed me to crawl over to Ken and Sandu, who was now certainly looking worried. "Sandu," I said, "how many transformations can the kid go through?" He just shook his head. It looked as if he knew the answer, but didn't want to say it. I looked over, watching as the kid, who'd now become some kind of centurion, tried desperately to put Kente down. Now, I'm not sure if the kid was getting weaker, or if it was Kente who was getting way too strong. But the problem was obvious here. At that point, the kid was only delaying the inevitable. Something else needed to happen soon, or we were done for. "I know what happens when he gets pushed to the limit," Sandu spoke up. "What he's really scared of. If that happens again..." He trailed off for a moment. "I didn't want it to happen. I thought this was going to be enough." "Don't like the sound of that," Ken muttered. "Kente killed the centurion by strangling it. This time the kid transformed into a hulking Templar knight. I could see Sandu visibly gulp. "That's it," he said. "This is the form he takes before everything goes to hell. If Kente kills this one, then God, I messed up." At that point, Kente had become so durable that the kid's attacks hardly fazed him, yet he didn't even attempt to stand down. I suppose that was the so-called warrior spirit, fighting even in the face of impossible odds. At the same time, all we could really do was watch. But before the two could engage in their penultimate clash, we could hear whistling from just behind them. Everybody turned around at once, seeing Nassar casually strolling towards us. "Wow, when did you get so big?" he said, his eyes wide in awe. "Have you become evil as well?" Kente growled. Nassar put his hands up in a defensive gesture. "I'm just here to have fun, big guy." "What does that mean?" Almost like an answer to his question, we could hear a set of booming footsteps approaching from behind Kente. A colossal figure was barreling towards us. The Titan had arrived, and from the way that Nassar was grinning, I could only assume he was the one that released it. As primal logic would dictate, the Titan went after the biggest guy in the area. Kente, who was now around the same size as the Titan, crouched into a defensive position. "I won't let evil." He was cut short by an abrupt headbutt. For such a big thing, the Titan was disturbingly fast. Their exchange was short, but utterly brutal. The Titan slashed at Kente's chest, tearing a large gash through it. Kente strikes the Titan's jaw, dislocating it. The Titan rips off Kente's left trapezius muscle. Kente gouges all of Titan's eyes out. The Titan crushes Kente's right hand while swinging blindly. Kente drills his fist into the Titan's crotch area, demolishing its goods. In a fit of blind rage, the Titan grabs Kente's head and slams it into the wall, planting it deep before dragging it along and tearing through the metal like butter. Kente grabs the Titan's head from behind and drags it down hard, causing the bones from its neck to snap, piercing through its flesh. I could have sworn Kente had grown 3 feet from that exchange alone. As he tossed the Titan aside, he looked back at us, half of his face now torn to the skull. Nassar looked like he was about to pass out from excitement. "Hell yeah!" he shouted, jumping up and down. "That was awesome!" Kente silenced him with one punch, essentially vaporizing him. There wasn't much hope before, but there was even less now. Sandhu's warning had been vague, but I was doubtful it was any kind of exaggeration. The kid readied his sword, a vain effort considering the fact he was about to go down. And then we were all screwed. Or so I thought. The time that the Titan had bought us was about to prove more than valuable, as Kente prepared a blow that likely would have finished the kid on the spot. A stream of projectiles hit his face, causing him to flinch just slightly. I turned to face who had done it, and to my surprise, it was Bella. For one reason or another, the bloody painter was back. "You!" Kente roared. Ken was happy to see her, of course. "You came back," he began, before his face dropped. "But now you're going to die. Have some faith in me, won't you?" she said. "I wouldn't be here if I didn't have a plan." "A plan?" Kale suddenly appeared behind her.
"Well, I guess you can call it a plan. Didn't have much time to put it together, though."
In any case, we were hardly in a position to protest. Kente barreled past the kid, nearly foaming at the mouth as he rushed Bella with overwhelming killing intent on his face. I'd like to say that Bella looked unfazed herself, but that was far from the truth. She narrowly dodged his tackle, hardly looking calm and collected in the process. Kale attacked Kente from behind, attempting to sink his teeth into his skin. His fangs broke immediately upon contact.
"Oh, screw this,"
he said before being tossed into the wall. However, he'd managed to distract Kente long enough for Bella to make a move, running to an adjacent, intersecting wall and looking down it. "Damn," she said before looking back at us. "Distract him. 30 seconds. That's all I need." 30 seconds might as well have been an hour. Before Kente could rush back towards Bella, Ken stepped forward, forming a couple of portals on the ground, in which two crocodile-like creatures emerged from. They were destroyed in 4 seconds. The kid went after Kente next, which posed another problem. "No!" Sandhu shouted. "Don't let Ajay get near him!" Kale groaned, pulling himself back up.
"Well, all right."
He jumped in between Kente and the kid, pushing the latter backwards before blocking a punch from the former with his arm. That arm was obliterated as he was launched back again, but he managed to buy about 3 more seconds while doing so. Ken opened up 3 more portals, blood now pouring like a fountain from his eyes, nose, and temple. "God damn it," he muttered, shaking as he forced his ability to the limit. But then he smiled. "I guess I trust you, though." 2 of his creatures attacked Kente, while the other one kept the kid occupied. That move managed to waste another 7 seconds. I looked back over at Bella. She was holding up 10 fingers. 9, 8. But Kente was already on the move. He'd reach her in about 3. To tell you the truth, I can't say that I've done a lot of heroic things in my life. Sure, I stood up for a kid that was being bullied back in the 4th grade. Intimidated a guy out of breaking into a parked car once. broke up 2 bar fights before. But nothing that actually put my life on the line. Truth be told, I was never really willing to do so. I'm sure it's a sentiment shared by most. And it begs the question, if you knew that your inactivity would lead to death regardless, would it really count as heroic in the end? By knowing that I didn't have much time to think, these thoughts were racing through my head as my feet were already moving. "Hey, freak!" I screamed. As I got to within about a meter of him, Kente turned to face me. I nearly lost it on the spot. I had no plan, no set strategy. I wasn't even planning on throwing a strike. That would have been pointless anyway. There was also no way that I was going to block or dodge any of his attacks. I suppose that right then and there, I was fully prepared to die. Maybe I hadn't even realized it myself. But then, the luckiest thing that had ever happened to me happened right then and there. I always prided myself on having good balance, rarely skidded on ice, never swayed on boats or trains, always pretty good at sports. However, in that moment, I slipped on a patch of blood, and by some miracle, it came at the exact moment Kente's fist was about to connect with my face. Instead of my skull being pulverized, his knuckle only grazed the side of my cheek, ripping a large gash through it as he did so. Sure, it hurt as hell, and I wasn't going to be talking to any girls for a while, but I had managed to buy enough time. Bella shot another stream of blades at the back of Kente's head, turning his attention away from me. The next few moments went by rather slowly in my head. I watched as Kente darted forward in a flash, while Bella scrambled like hell out of the way. As she was doing so, a figure had stepped out of the adjacent hall behind her. I didn't need to wonder who it was. His moves spoke for themselves. It was the dancing guy, shuffling cheerfully along. Kente himself even hesitated for a moment. But it was too late for him. As they collided, the dancing guy's MP3 flew out of his hand. For a moment, time seemed to stop. The dancer froze in place for what must have been 10 seconds. During that time, even Kente couldn't seem to bring himself to move. It was the calm before the storm. For a split second, the dancer's expression contorted into something that I'll never be able to get out of my head. It was an indescribable look of sheer, otherworldly rage. I blinked once, and when my eyes opened back up, I was met with a wall of red mist and flying limbs. One of Kente's oversized arms even flew at me, nearly dislocating my shoulder as it did so. The man we had previously deemed an immovable, insurmountable wall had been demolished in less than a second. Now dripping in blood, the dancer strolled over to his fallen music player and plugged it back in. All of us watched in stunned silence as he shuffled off and out of sight towards the opposite hall. Kale was the first one to speak up afterwards.
I'll be honest, I was 99% sure that wasn't going to work.
Bella let out a laugh of half relief, half disbelief. I looked over at the kid who was still in his night form. However, he looked confused, almost as if his reason for existing had suddenly vanished. Soon enough, he reverted back to his original human state. Ajay fell to his knees, coughing up blood in between sobs. Sendu quickly rushed over in order to tend to him. Is everything done? I thought to myself, save for Clint, TFVNH was dead. So were all the voids, except for the dancer, and the still contained Calamity. I guess it's over then?
That was ballsy, man.
I looked over to see Kale grinning at me.
Running a Kente like that? Hell!
I let out a slight chuckle, hardly able to believe it myself. Yeah, I guess. How's Hugo? Kale shrugged.
Guess some things can't be helped. I think I gave him a good send-off, though.
In the meantime, Bella was talking to Ken. I'd help you out, but, she said, wiping some of the blood off his face, which was entirely covered with it. I don't know what to do here. Yeah, it's more of an eternal pain. Looks pretty awesome though, doesn't it? Looks kinda gross, actually. They both laughed. That was great, what you did there, he said. Call it lucky. Thanks for trusting me there, though. Thanks for coming back. I really appreciate... Oh, shut up. You guilt-tripped me into it, you jerk. Before he could speak again, she pulled him in for a kiss. Not wanting to make things awkward, I directed my attention back at Ajay, who was beginning to settle down. He alright? I asked Sendu as I walked over. In place of a response, he simply got up and hugged me. I owe you. A bit longer and we'd all be... His voice trembling. It's alright, buddy, I said. Don't worry about it. At least it's over for now. He let go of me and looked at everybody else. I owe all of you. Bought time I did something good for once. Bella sighed before smiling. Yeah, same.
That jerk killed the first friend I've made in a long time,
Kale added.
He had it coming.
Oh, how touching. A familiar but completely annoying voice reverberated from behind me. I knew I had forgotten about something. I turned around, seeing Adrian standing right there, wearing his signature stupid smug smirk.
Who the hell is this?
Kale blurted out. Adrian ignored the question, looking over at the kid instead. That's a cool little ability you got there, he said. You know where it'd come in real handy? Oh no, I thought. Please don't say it. His grin grew wider. The evisceration matches. Part 10. The final chapter. How the hell did we get here? At that moment, it was all I could think about. As fun as all this has been, and it certainly has. Jeez. Adrian laughed to himself. I almost forgot what I came here for. This stuff is deadly sometimes. There's no way in goddamn hell. Don't even say it. Sendu cut him off. Adrian raised a brow. Yeah, is that so? Look, I get this whole guardian protector role you're trying to play here. Commendable. Really. And I'm sure the kid's been through a lot, but... His lips curled into a malicious grin. I've been through a lot as well. And you know what I've learned? This kid's gonna freaking croak if he keeps hanging out with you. He's strong, sure, but he can get a lot stronger. You guys only got lucky against Kente. It won't happen every time. You don't want that, do you? You literally want to send him off to death fights on some godforsaken planet. What the hell are you talking about? I interjected. Adrian groaned. Ugh. Oh, why don't you just shut the hell up? Just shut the hell up! As much as I hated to admit it, the sound of him raising his voice caused me to go quiet. There was a powerful aura surrounding him, like a switch in his demeanor that would flip instantly and aggressively. In all honesty, my will simply wasn't strong enough to challenge him any further. Out of everybody there, I was certainly the weakest. Look, Ken said, stepping forward. I have no idea where the hell you crawled out of. But we kinda went through a lot just now, trying to protect the kid. We're not gonna let him go just like that. Adrian clicked his tongue. I don't like getting my hands dirty, but he moved in a flash, rushing towards Sandu with startling velocity. However, his strike was intercepted by Kale at the last movement.
Damn, Kale muttered,
holding Adrian's fist back.
How is this guy strong as well?
Adrian struggled for a moment before breaking Kale's wrist and slamming a palm into his jaw. He went back at Sandu, only to be stopped again by a stream of blades from Bella, shredding his right arm as he blocked it. Damn it, he shouted. Why the hell are you people so hung up over this kid anyway? Are you an idiot? What kind of question is that? Ken said, stepping forward with his caked-in dry blood. He looked like as if he was going to pass out at any moment. Still, he offered the challenge. I couldn't live with myself if I let a freak like you near him, he said before opening up another portal. This guy's one of my favorites. Glad he's around for you. A massive skeleton with bits of charred flesh dangling off its oversized bones emerged from the portal. It revved up an equally oversized chainsaw before charging at Adrian. What the He barely got the words out before he was forced to evade certain decapitation. He bobbed and weaved away from the devastating blades, before eventually taking a few nasty cuts. At the same time, Kale was back on his feet, giving Adrian further trouble on top of it all. Bella soon joined in, forcing his back against the wall. Damn! He spat before leaping into the air and obliterating a good portion of the skeleton's skull with an elbow strike. Not enough. The skeleton grabbed him by the neck and thrashed him onto the floor. As he struggled to pull himself up, Kale swooped in, knocked him back down.
About time to give up, don't you think?
He grinned. Adrian spat out a good amount of blood. You really don't want that. He bolted up, drilling his head into Kale's chin before launching himself head first at the skeleton's torso. I figured it out, he screamed. I just need to get rid of your freaking arms. He did just that, snapping both of the skeleton's elbows at the joints, causing it to drop the chainsaw. He was about to go in for the killing blow when a stream of Bella's shards hit one of his eyes, blinding him in it. Damn witch! He shouted. The skeleton capitalized on the momentary distraction, kicking him into a wall. Safe to say, things were not going Adrian's way. He looked up as Kale, Bella, and the skeleton began converging on him all at once, his expression still rife with frenetic, concentrated rage. However, it didn't linger. Soon enough, he began smiling. Okay, all right, he said, holding up a hand. Can't say that this was a fair fight, but you got me. Damn, I thought I was tougher than this. He stood up, the grin still plastered across his face. Guess it's time for plan B. What the hell does that mean? Ken asked. Well, I gave you a hint. You are not going to like this. From his pocket, he pulled out some kind of clunky switch wrapped in a mess of wires. I'm releasing the big boy, the Calamity. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. Cale began stepping forward, but Adrian held his hand out. Are you dumb? You're nowhere near fast enough to get to me in time. He suddenly looked over to Bella, who was visibly itching to spray him with some more blades. You too. Don't even freaking try it. Don't you know how stupid of an idea this is? Ken said. Okay, Prof. Lecture me some more. I mean, you guys brought this onto yourselves. I had a simple request. He let out another insane laugh before abruptly going serious. Last chance. I mean it. Nobody moved. In fact, nobody said anything at all. We were all at a loss for what to do. How could you have figured out how to release it? Ken finally spoke up. You're bluffing. Yeah, well, you're pretty freaking annoying. He flipped the switch before dropping it on the ground. I'm a genius, he said. I can do anything. As Adrian continued to grin, with malicious anticipation, the rest of us waited in tense silence for what felt like 5 minutes. But nothing happened. Ken broke the silence. You know, when people bluff, they usually don't go this far. Adrian's face contorted into a confused rage. Give me a break, he spat out. All of this work for nothing. He took a glance over his shoulder. Nah, this is bull. I'm not an idiot. Like a bat out of hell, he took off down the opposing corridor. He's checking the panel, Ken said. That's right. I thought to myself, the panel was the only real way we could confirm whether or not he was really bluffing. Truth be told, none of us had any idea what the Calamity could have been. We all just assumed it was going to be some colossal monstrosity of a creature that was going to be bent on immediate destruction following its release. But we didn't know. Perhaps the danger it posed was more esoteric, something non-direct. We should go see for ourselves, I spoke up. At this point, whatever happens is going to happen. It didn't take too much convincing. Ken created another portal, pulling his skeleton back through it. With the fog of demise looming in the air around us, the 6 of us began making our way. The fighting was finally done. The only thing left to do was to confirm our fate. When we got to the panel, we were met with an unfavorable sight. The light was yellow. Escape in progress. Not only that, but a trap door had opened up in the floor to the side, with the set of stairs leading down to it. Adrian was right there, leering down into it. What did I tell you? He said. I'm not an idiot. Well, what the hell are you gonna do now? Ken asked. Go down there and then what? Tame it or something? Tame it? Die? We'll see what happens. Not like it matters anymore, unless you want to give me the kid. Sandu didn't budge. Adrian scoffed. I'll be honest. I was planning on releasing this thing regardless. You can't just keep something like this all locked up, you know? His remaining eye was wide with excitement as he said it. He looked back at the trap door. The great unknown, huh? He muttered before bolting down the stairs.
Should we have stopped him?
Cale asked as Adrian disappeared into whatever abyss was waiting for him. I don't know, Ken responded. Would there have been a point? A long period of silence followed. It could have been an hour, maybe close to 2. But regardless of the time, nothing happened. No giant creature bursting out from the floor. No portal sucking us into hell. Well, one thing did change. The light on the panel turned from yellow to red. The calamity had escaped. But that happened a while ago. Adrian never came up. Safe to say, we were at a loss for any kind of explanation. So, what now? Bella asked. Do we leave or...
Feels weird leaving it like this.
Doesn't it? Cale responded. I guess, Ken added. Don't really know where else to go from here, though. There is one other option, I said. It was an instinctive outburst, something I was hardly thinking about myself. And what is that? I gestured towards the open door. We could go down and see what happened for ourselves. Ken blinked a few times in disbelief. Are you messed in the head? Was I? It was a fleeting thought. Aren't you curious, I asked, about what they've been trying to contain this whole time? Ken laughed. Well, I never wanted to be here in the first place, so it really doesn't matter to me. But if you want to go, then make it quick. I'm sure this place won't be quiet for much longer. I stopped myself for a second. Is this really what I want? I thought to myself. I didn't really know. Yet there was some kind of strange impulse driving me forward.
Maybe there was never a calamity in the first place.
Cale spoke up.
What if it's just a scare tactic?
That theory could have held some weight, but it didn't answer the question of what the hell happened to Adrian. Oh, it exists for sure. A new voice came from behind us. We all turned around, already on edge from everything that had happened before. But it was Clint, still bloody and beaten from his bout with the warden. Clint? Ken grinned at him. Geez, you're still alive? Nassar and I made a bet about whether or not you were going to survive. Can't really collect now since he's dead, though. Yeah? Clint smiled back. How much you put on me? About 600. God, I'm offended. Don't you have any faith in me, buddy? I know you're a high roller, at least in Vegas.
You know, it's great that you guys are friends and all,
Cale interrupted.
But what the hell were you saying about the calamity?
I'll tell you, but you first gotta tell me something. Who the hell opened up that door? This crazy guy. Don't think you know him, I responded. And he's down there. Right now? I nodded. Clint's expression turned dead serious. God damn it, he muttered. He drew a handgun from his belt and began rapidly descending the stairs. The rest of us looked at each other in confusion before quickly following after him. It was a longer journey than I anticipated. It really begged the question of why such a lengthy set of stairs was constructed in the first place. Once we got down there, we found ourselves in some kind of laboratory with dusty monitors, haphazard stacks of documents strewn everywhere. At the very end of the lab was a metal door that was wide open. We could see Adrian standing inside the room that it led into. I couldn't really tell what he was doing at first. It kind of just looked like he was standing still. And I realized that's all he was doing. He paid no attention to us. He was simply staring ahead. Although I couldn't quite see what he was staring at. At first, that is. "Whatever you do, do not look inside the damn room," Clint shouted at us. He said it just a little bit too late. I don't know how I can describe what I was seeing. On the surface, it's simple. There was a monitor. Adrian was simply staring at a monitor. But what was on the monitor was tougher to explain. An amalgamation of incomprehensible shapes and figures shifting and moving in ways completely alien to human perception. And then there were the colors. Colors I'd never seen before in my life. Colors that I'm pretty sure didn't exist. In that moment, I could feel my mind fading, my sense of self dissolving into the void. I was utterly transfixed on whatever the hell was on that monitor. I could feel some kind of strange pleasure overwhelming my senses. But at the same time, I was trying my absolute hardest to look away. My emotions were utterly conflicted, which only worsened the already perplexing situation. I was eventually snapped out of it after some unknown duration. I remember jumping at the sounds of multiple gunshots before feeling a debilitating migraine and experiencing fleeting moments of blindness. I bent over in pain before blinking a few times and looking back up to see Clint carrying Adrian's limp, bullet-ridden body with the door to the room now shut behind him. As soon as he was done with that, he pressed his back against the wall, eyes wide and breathing heavy like a child who had just seen a ghost. "What the hell was that all about, and what the hell is wrong with you?" Ken asked him. I guess nobody else had gotten a glimpse of the monitor because they wouldn't have been asking that. I understood why that thing was far more dangerous than anything in this prison could have ever been. It was truly bizarre. The pleasure I felt from watching it was an immediate high. As soon as I was taken away from the stimulus, I was hit with an immediate, jarring low. Not like the come down that coincides with taking dopamine-releasing drugs. It was like, one moment it felt like I understood something, as if that thing was letting me in on some kind of forbidden secret. But for the moments following, it felt as if my comprehension of the world had shattered entirely. As if my brain was trying hard to reject what I had just learned, putting me in some state of existential dread. At least that's the best way that I can put it. That was the calamity, wasn't it? I said, still mentally reeling from the experience. Clint looked at me and nodded. But what? I could barely get the question out. But Clint answered regardless. Some things don't have simple answers. All that I know is that somewhere out there, in the vast expanse above us, there's something that we were never meant to see. Something that we cannot cross paths with. But if it's up there, then we shouldn't have to worry about it then, right? What's with all this? And why the hell are we monitoring it? I asked. Clint sighed. Here's the thing. As soon as we found out about its existence, it found out about ours. In a way, we are linked to it. Every second that a human eye perceives that thing, it reciprocates its attention. If somebody looks at it for too long, then they're pretty much inviting it right over to us. I could hardly respond to this mess. I guess I should tell you all this part as well, he continued. It's already coming towards us. Best estimated time arrival put it around 19,000 years away. But after today, it's probably a lot closer now. He looked down at Adrian. This jerk just shortened humanity's lifespan by a couple thousand years. And then he looked up at me. I saw you looking as well, he said. Luckily, I snapped you out of it before you went insane. You probably just cost us about 50 years as well.
Okay,
Kale spoke up.
not that I'm following any of this, but how are we stopping this thing from arriving?
Clint let out a dry laugh. That's what they've been trying to figure out. Why they built this freaking lab in the first place. It's funny though. All of their research probably just brought it closer. Huh, Ken said. So that's the deal with the calamity. Wouldn't have been my first guess. Yeah, pretty wacky stuff, Clint said as he got up. Well, we better get the hell out of here. This place is about to be swarmed.
Sure, but where the hell would we go? The moment we try getting off this island, we're getting shot at. Maybe it's better to just take our chances here and explain the situation,
Kale said. No way we're staying here, Sandhu, Ken, and Bella responded in unison. We better figure out something soon, Bella said. Getting out of here is going to be tough. It won't be tough. It's gonna be impossible. What? The island's already surrounded, and the cavalry's ready to pounce on any stragglers. They know about everybody who was supposed to be in here, and they're gonna hunt down the ones who don't get accounted for. He paused for a moment. In other words, you guys would be screwed. And then he grinned. If I wasn't here, he took out a bizarre-looking cell phone and dialed a number. Hey, I'm done, he spoke into it. Come pick me up. Before we could ask any questions, a small blue portal opened up in the ground a few meters away from us. So you can do it too, huh? Ken said. Yes, sir, Clint responded, but there's no monsters coming out of this one. Moments later, a well-built man with a heavy mass of a beard who looked to be in his late 20s popped out. What the hell, Clint? Where's your own freaking transporter? Warden broke it. The man laughed. All right, how was that, by the way? What'd you think, Pete? I almost died. I'm surprised you made it out at all. That warden's a tough one. And you brought company, huh? He looked over each one of us before gesturing towards the portal. Well, don't be scared. Jump in. There were a few more objections, of course, mostly from Kale and I. Kale was still clinging on to his identity as some reprehensible criminal who belonged in this place, while I was losing myself at the prospect of jumping into some blue hole in the ground. However, everybody else was raring to go. I suppose they all had their reasons. The kid looked like he was about to pass out, but he really didn't have a say in the matter. Sandhu was just trying to get him the hell away from this place. I only ended up jumping in when I heard the sounds of boots on metal from above us. I'm not quite sure how to describe my journey through the portal. Disorienting, I guess? But at that point, my senses had become pretty dulled anyway. We were transported to the top of a metal tower overlooking some desert-like expanse. The surface was crawling with ghastly creatures that looked to be some kind of coyote-scorpion hybrid. And they sure as hell were aggressive, constantly attacking, ripping apart, and cannibalizing each other. At the edge of the platform we were on, There was a sniper rifle mounted with the stool at the bottom. There were also empty boxes of snack cakes and beef jerky packets strewn across the floor. "Why are you hanging out in this dump?" Clint asked him, looking disgusted at the sight below. "Target practice," Pete responded. "Remember the guy who we were supposed to kill in Paradise X? Couldn't hit him for crap. And then I nearly got my genitals chopped off."
Hold on. Are you just not gonna explain where the hell we are?
Cale interrupted, sounding somewhat exasperated. I thought what just happened was pretty obvious," Pete responded. "We hopped to another dimension. Congrats! You're a jumper now." "A jumper?" Didn't Adrian say something about that? "So, where do you want to go next?" Clint asked. "Wait, what do you mean?" Ken spoke up. "Like to another dimension?" Clint nodded. "Well, I thought we were." "Geez, Ken, I thought you were a little more adventurous than that." Ken sighed. "I don't know. I make my way around Earth pretty well, you know?" "I'm down," Bella said, causing Ken to whip his head around. "You're serious?" "Yeah, what's there left to do on Earth? Might as well see something cool while we're alive. Besides, if you go back, you're just gonna get captured again. You really aren't as slick as you think. And what was that thing you told me all those years ago?" Ken raised an eyebrow. "I'll follow you anywhere," Bella said mockingly. Ken chuckled somewhat nervously. "I never said that. Maybe it was similar, but it wasn't that lame." "Whatever," Bella continued, walking towards Clint and Pete. "I know where I'm going, and it's not back to Earth." Ken hesitated for a few more minutes before ultimately relenting. "Jeez," he said, "this is messed up." "What about you, vampire?" Clint looked at Cale.
I'm not sure,
He responded.
I think a vacation's more than I deserve.
Clint continued. "So you still think that rotting away in a prison's gonna do anybody any good? Well, I'll tell you something that might pique your interest. There's a planet named Gehenna out in an area called the Dark Zone. There's no rules there. No interdimensional government has any jurisdiction over it, and any task force they send gets obliterated. And trust me, there's some bad stuff happening to innocent beings over there. Hell, that makes your blood boil just thinking about it. It can't be helped, I guess. Nobody coming to take out the bad guys and stop the suffering." He looked Cale dead in the eye. "Look, you're not the strongest, but you're strong enough to make a difference. Not to mention, you can get even stronger. Don't waste your life. Go and help those people. There's a militia of vigilantes called the Deliverance, pushing back against the gangs and traffickers controlling that place. We can get you over there, and then you can go and find them. Join them. Tell them I sent you." It took a moment, but Cale ultimately relented to the proposition. Even though he was acting reluctant, I could tell he was glad. He had a purpose once again. "Now," Clint said, turning to face us, "what do we do with you guys?" Haji still looked terrified as he clung on to Sandu. "Geez, Clint," Pete said as he fired another sniper bullet down into the mass of creatures. "You're getting kids caught up in your messes as well?" Sandu sighed. "Look, I appreciate you getting us out of there, but we need to go back." Clint and I both raised an eyebrow. "What? They'll track you guys down for sure. That's a terrible idea. Maybe so, but it's out of my hands. I have one more thing I need to figure out. He looked at Ajay. One more thing I need to figure out, for his sake. Trust me. Clint sighed. Fair enough. Well, you want me to come along? I asked. Sandhu smiled at me. Nah, this is something we need to do on our own. Well, I responded, it's been a ride, man. It felt weird saying bye to him like this. Yeah, sure has, but if things work out, you'll definitely see me again. And just like that, everything had been settled. Sandhu and Ajay were headed back to Earth. Their exact destination? Well, I'd rather not say it on here. Kale was headed to Gehenna in order to join the Deliverance. Pete stayed on the desert planet in order to continue his shooting. Once Clint had fixed his transporter, him, Ken, and Bella went off to God knows where. Well, to be more accurate, I went with them as well, but things got complicated pretty quickly and we got separated. So where am I now? That's a long story for another time. I'm back on Earth right now, but I won't be able to stay here for long. The chasm has been rebuilt, and they've appointed an actual head warden who's been looking for me. I hear he's a real jerk. On top of that, I have piles of unfinished business scattered here and there. If I don't deal with those, then, well, they'll definitely be coming back to haunt me. But I think things will work out in the end. At least, I hope they do.